All right. It's my pleasure to introduce today's guest speaker. I was going to introduce him as an old friend, but I don't want to use the word old with him because he's my age. So I'll say a long-time friend. Reverend VanGelder is a long time.
Fire it up.
He's a long-time educator in Beloit, in addition to being a pastor. Reverend VanGelder was an AP history teacher at Beloit Memorial High School for
35 years.
35 years. Maybe I should use the word old.
I started teaching when I was 12, though. Didn't know that.
And he was also a basketball coach for many years, and I had the good fortune of being his assistant coach for a couple of those years. Mr. VanGelder was known to be pretty strict, so no facial hair was allowed on the basketball team. He let me know the other day at the Y that I would not be allowed on the team bus if I had this beard. But anyway, Mr. VanGelder has been a guest speaker, a guest lecturer at many different places. And really, he's traveled the world. He takes people on tours all over the world to some really neat places. So in addition to having a wealth of knowledge, he also has a wealth of experience. So we're in for a big treat today. So I'm asking you to give a warm welcome to Reverend VanGelder.
It is very good to be with you. I have to tell you, I taught, as you heard, for a long time. And I enjoyed every day because, you know what, you guys bring so much energy. You guys bring so many challenges. You bring a lot of different things to school with you each day. And in the course of that, I sometimes will see my past students, and I call them postcards from the past because I remember them from years ago. And some of them are very, very successful. Some of them are sort of successful, as we use that word. But all of them, I feel very close to. And I hope that you appreciate the men and women who are teaching here. I had a chance to walk through your school and sit in some of the classrooms. And you know, your staff, quite honestly, doesn't get paid as much as people who teach at Beloit Memorial or some of the other districts. But you know something? They have passion. They want to be here for you. They're getting the job done for you. Do you guys like the teachers you around here? Yeah. Let them know. I'm going to share with you a little bit about making sense of a changing world. I grew up in Beloit. I have to tell you, I have 7 brothers and sisters. There's 2 sets of twins. There was 11 people living in one house. Our grandmother lived with us. And you know how many bathrooms we had? 1. 1 bathroom for 11 people. Today, the police would come to our house and my parents would be arrested for that. That's the way it used to be. And you know, there was this no expectation of having this certain kind of gene on with a label or driving a certain car, because back then, most of us walked or rode a bike. This used to be a school, but not this school. This used to be Strong School, located here in Beloit. And we would come by, and it was an old grade school, eventually closed. And then you guys ended up reviving it and bringing a school here. But everything changes, doesn't it? Did you notice changes just in the short time that you've been living in terms of seeing things as they sort of unfold a little bit? Well, as we do that, I have to tell you that I have traveled to 15 different countries this year. I've been in, where have I been this year? I have been in Peru. I've been in Iceland, Costa Rica, China, Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, Egypt, Israel, China. I said China. I don't remember all the places I've been. Turkey, and I just came back from Africa, and I'll get to that in a minute. My point being, I've had a chance to go all over the world. You know what I find universal? Is there's so much goodness in people wherever you go. We've got some foreign students, don't we? Raise your hand if you're from some other place. I think that's such a great influence here. You guys are really blessed to have that influence here in the school. But you know, your verses for this year is out of Micah, and it's 6:8, and it tells you that God has shown us what we are to be doing, right? God has shown us what we are to be doing. And it talks about the fact that we should embrace justice. And I just want to talk about justice. When I was in Turkey, there was a girl there, actually a woman from Iran. And Iran, if you don't know, is an Islamic state. It's called a theocracy because the government is very much influenced by the religion. And you can only do what the religious leaders say. And this girl was a member of the Baha'i faith. Do you guys know what Baha'i is? Baha'i is a religious group that believes that all religions have merit, all religions have truth, and they don't necessarily esteem one over another. I was in Haifa earlier in Israel, and that's where the Baha'i gardens are. They're the most beautiful gardens. There's 6 levels of them, which are huge. About 4 times, each platform is about 4 times wider than this gym. And each was filled with plants and flowers. It's quite very impressive. But the government of Iran said to her, they said, we don't want you being a Baha'i. We want you to be a Muslim. So they put her in jail. And she was in jail for 5 days. She got no food. She could see no one. Imagine being in a cell all by yourself for 5 days. But this person, instead of renouncing her religion and saying, okay, whatever you want me to be, I'll be. Just let me out of here. She would not do it. And you know, that's the faith that Christians have had from the beginning. When you look at the persecutions that happened in the time of Rome, and all the things that happened, and they found out that the more they persecuted the Christians, the more people became Christian. So, in the case of this girl, you know what she did? She took the jail experience then while she was standing there, and she said, I'm going to make a difference. She said, do you have some paint? Because I want to go out and I want to paint some walls. We can put some animals. Well, I want to make this a better place in the midst of prison. I don't know if I would have thought of that. Would you have thought of that? Someone throws you in jail and says they treat you terribly like that, and you say, let me do something for somebody else. She's a very embodiment of embracing justice, which is to say that justice isn't always fair, it isn't always easy, but it's something that we should all want to have. When I go to Cameroon, I'm involved in 2 things over there. There's a computer institute, it's called the Friends of Paul's Computer Institute. It's the most advanced computer institute in all of West Africa. And we have like 300 students, and it's an incredible success story. We have our own building, beautiful building, and there, the kids come. And they can't wait to learn. Now, I have to tell you what a person in the Peace Corps told me. She said, you know what? You've got what I want, and I've got what you want. I said, what do you mean? She said, I've got something, but you tell me, what do you think I want? She said, well, I know what you want. You want our technology, our textbooks, all the nice things that we have in America. I said, so what do you have that I don't have? She said, I have students who really want to learn. You know, when you talk about Abraham Lincoln having to walk miles to school, over there, honestly, I have a hard time believing this. All of you who are a little bit younger here, it's not unusual to walk 2 to 3 miles one way to school. And they all wear uniforms. To go to any school is a big sacrifice for the parents, and a building might be just a hut. From that wall to where I'm standing, it might just have a cover over it and a chalkboard, and that's school. You have no idea what you have here. You have no idea how blessed we are to be living where we are. I'm telling you, we have got so much here. We have got so much all around us, and yet, even though we have so much, so many people in America think they have so little. How many have heard someone say, wait till I win the lottery? You ever heard someone say that? I bet some of your parents or grandparents, right? Wait till I win the lottery. You know, we have so much here. We have more than we ever need, and the Lord has blessed us incredibly here. There is a religious group called the Shakers. Have you ever heard of them? Yeah, maybe some of you have, maybe some adults you have. Good. And Pleasant Hill, Kentucky, I take people out there to the Shaker Village. It's a beautiful place. But the Shakers believe that when they dance, they have to keep their hands out because there's so many blessings coming down from God that it fills up their hands. It's unbelievable. That's how they look at it. So many blessings. So I hope that in your life, that even though you may not have all the things you want, if you have parents who love you, if you feel that if it's not your parents, someone else in this world loves you, If you feel that you know the Lord, if you feel that you've got some things, you're all good. You're all good. So when you leave here, what do you want to do? What do you want to do? You know, that's a big deal, isn't it? What do you want to do? All right? The other part of my trip in Africa is with an orphanage. And in this orphanage, there's 100 young people. They range in age from little babies to seniors and actually some in college. They have no chance of ever leaving the orphanage. They do not allow adoptions, and it's where they're going to live their whole life. But you know, they're surrounded by love. Older kids take care of younger kids, and there's a real spirit there. It's unbelievable. But when I went there and I look at them, tears come, because I just wish there's more I could do. But I've been able to raise a lot of money to help them. But nonetheless, we have so much. We just don't realize it. I hope you look at that at Christmas time. You know, what is it? How much more of these things do I need? So if you like justice, if you embrace justice, you realize that it's a big world out there. But even in my own world, we have to embrace justice. We have to treat other people the way that we want to be treated. We have to be willing to accept things as they sort of come through. But on the other hand, if something is not right, we stand up. Now, all right, so I told you I was from 11. I went to Glen Memorial, graduated, and I went to the University of Richmond down in Virginia. Beautiful, beautiful campus, great college. And I was there in 1966, was my freshman year there. And you know what? When I walked down the street, if there was a black person coming towards me, they would step aside, and they would never look me in the eye. They would go like this. Because that's what they were taught. They were taught that they're not as good as a white person. That was in my lifetime. And you know what? In the course of my lifetime, one of the great things that's happened is the spirit of justice. That now women who couldn't do a lot of things can now do almost anything. We know minorities can do things they could never do before. That's a spirit of justice, isn't it? And we live in a great land for that. There's a great song, We Shall Overcome. I'm sure you've heard of it. I'm thinking, have you heard of that? Yeah? No? Some? Yeah? You know what? We just sang at my church the other Sunday because I was talking about the fact that, you know, there's an awakening. There's an awakening that we need to change things, and we just can't let this injustice go by. So, you know what? When you're in school and you see someone treating someone else wrong, that's an injustice. And you have a right to say something. When you walk away, you're also making a statement, which is, I don't care. We need people who care. We need people to step forward. Now, I'll just share this little story with you. You never know. I was teaching, and every day in my classroom, I would sit out front of the door, and everybody that came in my room, I'd have something to say. You know, I'd come in and I'd say, hey, nice game last night, or boy, you're really good in play, or I'd have something to say to them. And there's this one girl who was not, she was very plain looking, and she had very few friends, and she was very awkward socially. And she would come in, and I would tease her and talk to her every day. And I'll never forget on a Christmas Eve, right over here, I used to be at First Baptist for a long time. On Christmas Eve, she comes to a service, and she has no money, very poor. And she brings me a present. I tell you what, I got a tear in my eye. All she wanted was for someone to treat her the right way. Just treat me like everybody else. Nothing special. Just treat me like other people. Be nice to me. Show me justice. And you know, that's what all of us want. We all want justice. We all want a feeling that we should be able to do certain things. It also goes on then to tell us that we should love mercy. Mercy is a sense then that we go above ourselves and we give as unto the Lord. You know, the Scripture teaches us to be the greatest is to be a servant. So, when you leave this school, and some of you are going to go on to universities and colleges all over this country, and chances are, as you look at it, you're going to have some choices. Is there anything wrong with making money? Money of and by itself is a neutral commodity. Nothing wrong with making money. It's what you do with that money. Does the money control you, or do you control the money? A lot of people I know who have money are very generous and do a lot of very nice things. So there's no But I know here within you, because I know this group a little bit, you guys all have mission projects, don't you? People that you help and things that you do. And you know what? Chances are that's always going to be a part of who you are. And when you give back, when you help and you nurture these people, wherever they might live, wherever they might be, makes a difference. How many of you have been in a foreign country? And did you, when you were there, did you see things that maybe you'd like to do to be able to help people? Yeah, I mean, I think we all do. And so you can't change the whole world, but you know what? You can change your part. And there's a Jewish proverb that goes, if you save one life, you save the world entire. Because you don't know what that one life might do. How that one life might change the world. And as I get into Advent, I was in Bethlehem. And Bethlehem, of course, they believe is where Jesus was born. And in Bethlehem, this is Jerusalem. And south of Jerusalem is where Bethlehem is. It's not very far away, about 5 miles. But it's in Palestinian-controlled territory. I don't know how much you know about the Middle East, but there's a Jewish state, Israel, and there's the Palestinian territories. And so you have to go through a checkpoint. You go into Palestine, then you go to the Church of the Nativity, and the door to get into the Church of the Nativity is about this tall. So when you go into the church, you have to bow, don't you? To get into the church, that's how you go in. And they have a 14-point star that marks the place where they believe Jesus was born. And there, pilgrims come in, they kiss the star, and it's a very moving experience. But you know something? Then you leave, and you have to go through another checkpoint to get back into Israel. So what am I saying to you? Isn't it sad that we have to have checkpoints to get in to see where Jesus was born? But it's the reality of our world. In the midst of so much love, there is hate. If you're in Jerusalem and you look at the gates, you'll see a lot of the gates have bullet holes in them. Thousands of them. And as we see those, we realize that in the midst of what should be a very holy and wonderful place, man has changed them. So we're capable of great good, but we're also capable of great evil. We know that. So as you think about your plans, whatever they might be, I would say this. If you had your own mission, it's a wonderful thing. And if you are blessed, there's a wonderful institution in Wisconsin. It's called the La Follette Institute. One of my daughters graduated from it. It is a public policy institute. Do you know what public policy means? Public policy is what the government passes in laws to be able to change the world. So you have to do this, or you have to do that. And these are good things, normally. And in the La Follette Institute, if you got out of there and got into a leadership position, instead of being able to help 5 people, you can help thousands of people, or in some cases, millions of people. So challenge yourself. How is it I can show my mercy? And finally, to walk humbly with the Lord. Are we big with being humble in America? No. We're all about, I'm all that. You know, I'm all that. And more. And it's the idea that we're so special and we're so awesome and we're so unbelievable, instead of realizing that, you know what? Maybe we're not all those things. And the person who has the most to brag about, the person who has the most to say about it, that isn't always the person that we know is the person we want to emulate. Oftentimes it's the quiet person. Now, you know, when I taught American history, and you look at some of this, it is always, to me at least, very significant to see what people have come forward to change our world. What people have come forward, what names come to your mind? Who's changed the world that we've lived in? Some names? I'm sorry? Mother Teresa. Very good. Exactly. And by the way, of all the women in the world, she's still rated the one to be most emulated, the one to be most like is Mother Teresa. Sorry about that, all these other Hollywood stars and starlets, but what else? Any other names come to mind? Martin Luther King Jr. Exactly.
Martin Luther King.
Yeah, good. You know, Martin Luther King, when he graduated from seminary, he had a great choice. He could have come up north and had a great church and real easy life. But you know what he did? He stayed down there. He went to Montgomery, Alabama, which was the most segregated city in America. And while he was there, to show you how life unfolds, his dad was a preacher. And they came to him and said, we want you to give a speech tonight. And he had 20 minutes to get ready to give a speech. In that 20 minutes, he walked up to the podium, changed that church, and ended up changing the world, didn't he? Very powerful. I have a dream. Absolutely. Anybody else changed our world? Billy Graham, exactly right. A great evangelist who was evangelist to presidents as well as commoners and really went all over the world with his missions. Yes? Harriet Tubman. Good. Yeah, that's very good. Harriet Tubman. Leading people to freedom. Yeah, exactly. Yes. Oh, Lewis and Clark? Oh, excellent. Lewis and Clark opening up. We can do this. And going across, I was just out in that area, by the way. So, yeah, Lewis and Clark. Undaunted courage. Yes. Pardon? Hudson Taylor? Okay. I'm not very familiar. Tell me about Hudson Taylor. Oh, okay. Do you know we have a school here in Beloit that's closed now? Do you ever hear of Brother Dutton? Do you ever hear of Brother Dutton? I mean, does some of you go to Brother Dutton? Brother Dutton, you know who he was? He was a guy, he was a Civil War veteran, fought in the Civil War, came back, and you know what? His wife and he didn't get along. His wife left him for another man. Not good. So he was beside himself, so he joined the Catholic order, and he went to an island in Hawaii to live among lepers. Do you know what leprosy is? It's a skin disease that there's no cure for. Even today, there's no cure for it. And it will, at times, even eat away your flesh. So lepers would wear hoods so as to cover their face so you couldn't see the fact that they had virtually no skin on their face anymore. It's a horrible disease. And this guy went and worked with the lepers for over 40 years. Pretty amazing story, right? This is Paul's Computer Institute I'm talking about. This guy was in the Peace Corps in Cameroon, Africa. He's from Beloit. He's a Beloit firefighter. He went to Cameroon, got done with the Peace Corps, said, I want to do more. He took his life savings and bought some computers and started a school with 12 students. And now, as I mentioned, we have 300. Can that one person make a difference? Absolutely. And that one person is right here. Not some other place. It's right here. I'm just going to end by saying, do we get do-overs in life? Do we get second chances in life? At the basis of the Christian faith is the idea that you do. You guys know who John Newton is? He's a famous person. What did he write? He wrote a hymn. Amazing Grace, isn't it? Amazing Grace. And John Newton, if you don't know, was a slave captain. And John Newton and these slavers, they would use either a tight pack or a loose pack, and they'd bring those slaves from over in West Africa to the New World. They would be so many of them dying that the sharks would literally follow them over. Terrible things. It was the worst occupation in the world. And John Newton woke up one day and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm better than this. So what does he do? He goes to seminary, becomes a minister, and ends up writing the words, I once was lost, but now I'm found, was blind, but now I see. Pretty staggering tale, isn't it, of a person who was at the very lowest ebb to a person who said, with Christ's help, all things are possible. So, as we look at it, you walk humbly with God, you love mercy, and you embrace justice, and your life will be very good in all ways. You'll have a great family. You're going to have a great occupation. Most of all, you're going to have great interests. You're going to devote yourself to what the Lord calls us to, which is to be there for all people and to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So, I guess with that, does anybody have a question? Probably not. I know young people. The only question is what's for lunch, but yeah.
Well, let me ask a question.
Sure.
You mentioned that one person can make a difference.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you, in your life, who was that person, or maybe people that made a difference in your life?
That's a great question. I think my mother was a person that was my greatest influence. My mother gave birth to 8 children. She ran the Beloit Mall when it was a big and going mall. She was the first woman in Wisconsin to solo on an airplane. She was the first woman in Wisconsin to teach ground school, and she's in the Wisconsin Aviation Hall of Fame. And she's written 2 books, one called Taming the Blue, another one Growing Up in Monterey. But most of all, she was the greatest person at motivating other people to do really good things. She was a person who gave people the belief that they could do anything. And I was a product of that. That's maybe what I've been able to do a couple things.
How do you think these guys can make a difference here? What are some practical things that right now, one of these guys can influence someone else?
You know, I think what happens is, and I'm really out of touch with you guys a little bit, but I do know this, that you're at an age which is very influential. When you do the right thing, when challenged, when you do the right thing, it sends a message. When you do the wrong thing, it sends a message. And it's the little decisions of life that open up things. I'll just share this with you. I had a young man that played basketball for me, very close. I did his wedding for him. He was a top student. He was like number 5 in his class. Great athlete, went to Beloit College, did everything perfect, married the most beautiful girl in the school. It looked like life was going to be perfect. And one day he was drinking when he shouldn't have been on a highway. His car went across the median and hit another car. And in that car, 4 members of the family were killed. So I'm at his trial. I go down to the prison to visit him. A guy who had everything in the world, but made some bad decisions. I'm sure this wasn't the first time he did it. And what happens? He pays a terrible price. Imagine the guilt of a mother and a father and 2 children every day. And this person is a devout Christian. I have to tell you, he's a devout Christian. If I brought him in here, if he was younger, and Bob knows what I'm talking about, if I brought him in here, you guys would elect him class president. I can tell you that. That's how dynamic and energetic. But a bad decision is a bad decision.
Well, thank you very much, Reverend Benny.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you.
Now, what we've seen here is somewhat historic. This makes 2 chapel services in a row where we've ended on time. That's kind of happened before. All right, so let's have a word of prayer, and when we're done praying, you can be dismissed and put away your chairs. Lord Jesus, we thank you for our message this morning. We pray that we will look to you as we look to fulfill this verse of Micah 6:8, that we will love mercy, we will walk humbly, Lord, we will embrace justice. Lord, give us that burden in our hearts to do just that. Which in your name we pray. Amen. All right, turn to your chair.